I hadn't heard of Outside Providence, the 1999 film, and to be honest, it probably would have never came on my radar, and I probably never would have watched it were it not for the fact that George Wendt is in it. I'm trying to catch up with a lot of his older films. This is one of them, and he is barely in it, but I have to say, when he is in it, there's something about his character that's revealed, and I really liked that, and I was happy with his part. As for the rest of the film, it was alright. It wasn't perfect. I'm not 100% the target audience, but there were aspects of it that I liked. So this was directed by Michael Corrente, with a screenplay by Peter Farrelly, and it does have a brilliant cast. So it follows Tim Dunphy, who's played by Shawn Hatosy, and I probably pronounced that incorrectly, I apologise. And we also have Alec Baldwin as his father, who is absolutely brilliant, and Amy Smart's also in this. And the description from IMDb reads as follows. After one too many run-ins with the law, a punk teenager from a working-class background is sent to prep school by his frustrated dad and learns a thing or two. So straight away, prep school, love it. I love any film that deals with either, a boarding school or, a boys' prep school. And primarily that's what this is. However, we didn't really get to see too much of the school itself. And again, for a lot of people, that may be a good thing. But for me, I would have rather that it had been to the level of, say, Dead Poets Society. Not that those two films could be compared. But it just wasn't enough of the prep school for my liking. But what we saw was good. And he had an interesting group of friends and peers with him that kind of made it really something really a little bit more interesting than what it could have been. There are a few problems. And actually, I'll get back to the problems. One thing I did like about this is there is a love interest character in this, of course played by Amy Smart, and it's not cliche. It is not what one would expect, the way that this relationship unfolds. The way that Dunphy behaves with her and around her. It's not as predictable as what one would think. And I was really pleased with that, and I was really happy that they made that decision to not make it cliche and cheesy. They actually gave it a little bit of a different twist, and it gave Dunphy a bit more respect. And he is a nice character. He's very likeable. He's very easy to get on board with. He's a little bit cheeky, mischievous, sometimes naughty in a more criminal sense, but nothing too severe. The things that I didn't like about this mainly was the beginning. And the beginning, for the first 15-20 minutes, it's so slow. It's really slow. The lighting is abysmal. It's far too gritty. It doesn't really echo what's being marketed. So if you look at the poster art, for example, it's bright, it's colourful. It looks like it's going to be a cheeky, cheesy little comedy. But it's not. And to be honest, I didn't think it was that funny. At no point did I really laugh. I found it heartwarming. I found it slightly enjoyable at times. But I never found it funny at all. So I'm not really sure if that's because I'm not the target audience. I think maybe if you're younger, you might find the juvenile humour a bit more entertaining. But for me personally, it just didn't gel with me, but it is not the bright, colourful film that's being marketed as. It's definitely not. That being said, it hits on some pretty emotional things at times. It's lighthearted. We follow Dunphy being cheeky and juvenile and carefree in a world where he's supposed to be basically regimented. And there are some more hard-hitting moments. And I think it got the balance very, very well. There is some interesting dialogue. We have some great performances. There are some characters I could have done without. I wasn't a fan of Drugs Delaney. Very well played by John Abrahams, but not a character I liked. And he did add value. I'm 100% aware that he added value to the narrative and to how Dunphy would have perceived things. But just personally, as a character, looking at him as a character, I felt uncomfortable when he was on screen. So he wasn't somebody I liked. So I watched it for George Wendt, who was barely in it, but as I said, there's actually something important about his character and his role, and I was really pleased with what they did with that. As far as the narrative goes, The narrative itself is very good, no doubt about that. The execution's pretty decent. I think the genre's a bit messed up because it's not funny. It's kind of a rom-com, a very unfunny rom-com, but again, there is something different about that relationship that I think is really nice. And it's part drama as well. So it's got a whole lot of things going on. I don't think the film knows what it's trying to be. But that being said, it was still a pretty decent watch. And I just realised the poster art advertises this as side-splittingly funny. I disagree wholeheartedly. However, that being said, I still enjoyed it, even though it wasn't what I expected, and I'm pretty happy to say it's one that I would recommend.